Now, something in this room must be discerned between the lines. The physical ear cannot hear truth any more than the physical tongue can utter truth. If you listen for words, you will miss it. If you hunt for sentences, you will find only letters. What concerns us tonight is not grammar, not quotation, not belief. What concerns us is entrance. My kingdom is not of this world. That is not poetry. That is not consolation for a rainy day. That is not a promise for tomorrow. That is a map without paper and a door without hinges. If you try to hear it with the ear, it is only a phrase. If you try to explain it with the mind, it is only a doctrine. My kingdom is not of this world. It isn't even an improved this world. It isn't even a perfect this world. It is not available to the senses, and it never will be. Now then, take this seriously for a moment. If the kingdom is not of this world, what has all our fixing fixed? What has our cleverness healed when the premise of the scene remains the same? Do you see the trap? We come upon a problem and immediately the moral instinct says, do something to this picture, and so we become tailors for shadows, sewing hems on mist, painting golden leaves on a paper tree, and then wondering why the wind blows through. Compassion, you say. Compassion. But tell me, is compassion the worship of appearances? Is love the maintenance of a hypnosis? Or is compassion the refusal to bow to a premise that is not God? Do not hear me with your ears. Hear me with the place that does not argue, because the ear wants instruction, and the ear wants to busy the hands, and the ear wants to win the debate. But the kingdom never yields to debate. The kingdom yields to entrance, and entrance comes not by thought, not by the beautiful arrangement of words, not by attending another meeting and nodding yes to phrases. Entrance comes for a split second when a thought stops and silence swallows it. In that instant, truth rushes, not a statement of truth, the spirit itself. And then for that instant, the earth melts. In that instant, you are not of this world. You ask, but what of suffering? Are we to stand aloof? Are we to be indifferent? No, never. Indifference is of the same world as panic. Condemnation and sentimentality live in the same tenement. We are not indifferent, we are not sentimental, we are not involved. The difference is the realm. If you start with the scene, you must fix the scene, and you will never be done. If you start with the kingdom within, then whatever act appears outwardly is not a repair of shadows, but a release of grace. One is entanglement, the other is blessing. One strains the nerves, the other lets the worlds turn and keeps you rooted in I am. Now the mind wants to help. The personal I wants to manage, to guide, to label results. It is sincere, it is frightened, it is responsible. And because it is frightened and responsible, it seeks how to in the realm where there is only be. Teach me the steps, give me the technique, tell me what words to say. Nobody ever entered by words. Nobody. The physical ear can memorize every holy line and remain as far from the kingdom as yesterday from now. Do you have ears and do not hear? Eyes and do not see? That is not a rebuke, it is a diagnosis. The faculty required is in you, but it is not one of the senses. It is the capacity to stop enough for the veil of language to thin and the unspeakable to announce itself. Not in thunder, not in thought, but in a stillness that has no tomorrow in it. Now then, what are we to do in this room? We are to withdraw from the assumption that the scene is reality. Just for this hour, refrain from taking ownership of any picture that parades itself across your mind. Neither embrace it nor fight it. Let it pass as clouds pass, and in the passing, sink. Let a thought finish. Do not start the next one. And if you find that you have started the next one, let that one finish. And somewhere in that tiny gap, half a breath wide, the door you cannot build opens of itself. not because you deserve it, not because you worked at it, because grace is the government of the kingdom, and grace announces itself only where the personal I has, for a moment, stopped speaking. My kingdom is not of this world. Accept this not as belief, but as geography. When you stand in that country, you will still see the same faces, the same streets, the same reports on the desk, but you will not be of them. You will not argue with them. You will not call them divine or undivine. You will not try to reform the film while the projector runs. You will, for that split second, live where outcome is not your department. And from there, an act may be given you, the kind act, the strong no, the quiet yes. It will be given. It will not be invented out of fear. Do not try to pack this into your head. It won't fit. The head is always late. The head is always elsewhere. We are not dealing with ideas. We are dealing with is, not I was, not I will be. Is, and is always now. The ear wants tomorrow. The kingdom is never tomorrow. The mind wants guarantees. The kingdom is never a guarantee. It is presence. It is rest. It is government. If you have come to be made comfortable, you have come to the wrong room. I cannot comfort the personal I and invite grace in the same breath. I can only tell you what I have discovered at cost. All of the years of my struggles to mend the picture left me with mended pictures and an unmended heart. Only when, by weariness or mercy, a thought stopped, only then did the air change. Only then did I find that I had been listening with the wrong ear. So now, between the lines, let us agree to this. We will not make an idol of the scene. We will not make an idol of words about the kingdom. We will let the sentence end and not begin another until we have tasted the space behind it. We will stand available to compassion, but we will refuse to be drafted by appearances into their war. And in that refusal, gently, quietly, without advertisement, the kingdom that is not of this world will begin to be felt not by the ear, but by the one in you that has never been born and never will die. Then, and only then, can we speak of helping, of healing, of being a blessing without being captured. Now, let us be still enough to hear what cannot be said. Now then, here is where the honest heart stumbles. You see hurt and you rush. You see lack and you plan. You see injustice and you strap on armor. You call it love. You call it responsibility. You believe that to be spiritual is to be first on the ladder with a hammer, first to throw a rope, first to correct, reform, improve, rescue, and make it right. I know. I did it. And the world, with a straight face, thanked me for my efforts while it quietly arranged the next emergency. The sincere person thinks the proof of compassion is the repaired picture. The sincere person believes results can certify love. And so the sincere person chained his ankle, and mine, to the scene and called the chain virtue. Listen between the lines. In the moment you accept the human scene as the arena of God, you submit to its government. You kneel unwittingly to its laws. Cause and effect becomes your master. Time becomes your calendar god. Fear becomes your sacrament. Outcomes, better, best, not good enough, become your liturgy. You pray inside this arrangement for better weather, kinder neighbors, more supply, and when the weather changes or a check arrives, you declare God is present. But you have only witnessed a shuffle of shadows. Do you see? You made the picture the measure of the presence. You reported to the picture for orders, and then you wondered why peace would not stay. My kingdom is not of this world, not of this world, not even an improved this world, not even a perfect this world. Take that step all the way, and the whole strategy of fixing collapses. Fixing is an admission of reality to the picture. Fixing says, this is where truth lives. It is broken. With holy glue we shall mend it. You can paint rust gold. You can polish a mirror that isn't there. You cannot pour infinity into a measuring cup marked yesterday and tomorrow. The kingdom is not the scene made better. The kingdom is a different country, entered, not engineered. Now, be very clear. Rising above is not neglect. It is not apathy. It is not callousness toward a neighbor's pain. It is not cruelty in a robe of metaphysics. Indifference and panic are roommates. They sleep in the same bed. We are neither. We are not numbed by the picture, and we are not inflamed by it. To rise above is to refuse to grant appearances the right to define God or to instruct your soul. It is to deny them authority without denying them observation. You see them, but you do not bow. You witness them, but you do not confer reality. You remain available to be sent, but you are not drafted by the noise of the street. Let me show you the turn. A friend calls with illness. The instinct says, get busy, find the treatment, speak the words, fix the symptom. And so the personal eye hurries, full of love and fear, and says holy things to a frightened picture. Or, now there is another way. Stop, a split second. Withdraw the private self from the scene. Lay down the ambition to prove love with the result. Do not argue with the illness. Do not diagnose the mind. Do not certify a cause. Refuse the picture's invitation to be real. Turn within, not to produce a thought, but to permit a silence. In that split second, if it is given, the presence announces itself. Not a statement, not a technique, presence. And out of that, perhaps you go with soup, perhaps you go with a doctor, perhaps you go with nothing but a quiet being that says, I am. Notice, action may appear identical to yesterday's action, but the realm has changed. Yesterday you worked in the scene to mend it. Today you stand in the kingdom and something works through you without your fear in it. Consider the bank account that rattles, or the courtroom that threatens, or the headline that demands your rage. The personal I would like to prove holiness by victory. It wants God to take sides and hand you the trophy. But the minute you drag God into your contest, you have fashioned an idol and written his name on it. There is no God in the human scene. God is not the umpire of your outcomes. God is the life that, when realized, dissolves the contest. When you stop repairing the scene, what changes? Your burden changes. The weight of outcomes slides off your shoulders because outcomes do not belong to spirit. Fear changes because fear is the confession. I am on my own here, you are not. Rhythm changes, you discover government, grace governing you, and through you, the act that is appropriate without your terror in it. Do not argue with me with the ear. Try it. For 1 hour, refuse to make the picture your deity. Watch an appearance and withhold your inward consent. Not denial, not defiance. Refusal to bow. Ask nothing of it. Ask nothing for it. Enter the now until a thought stops. When that tiny stop occurs, you will feel a change of atmosphere, like the room exhaled. In that atmosphere, compassion is born as obedience, not as heroism. Compassion is not proven by fixing appearances. It is proven by refusing to worship them as reality, and from that refusal, allowing the one act that grace ordains to come through clean. Sometimes that act is a word. Sometimes it is a check. Sometimes it is a stillness that says no when all the world expects a yes. Understand this, and you understand the great reversal. You do not heal the scene. You rise above it. You do not reform the film. You step back to the light that projects it. From that light, the necessary frames will pass, and some will pass through your hands. But they will not own your heart. They will not be your God. We remain in this world, jobs, families, courts, kitchens, but not of it. The proof is not that every picture pleases us. The proof is that our peace no longer depends on pictures, and from that peace our usefulness grows, not because we have become better fixers, but because we have stopped serving idols and have begun to live from within. Now then, let us have the courage to let the picture be the picture, and the kingdom be the kingdom, and see what changes when the heart bows only to one. Now then, take this as it is and do not sand it down for comfort. There is no God in the human scene, not in its wins, not in its losses, not in its tears, its cheers, its coronations, or its funerals. The physical ear cannot hear that because the physical ear wants a God who shows up in weather reports and court decisions and test results. The ear wants a deity who participates, chooses sides, stops trains, moves money, extends life, shortens sentences. The ear wants a manager of scenes. There is no such God, not in this world. If you insist that God is in the scene, then be consistent. Bring him into the earthquake. Seat him in the cancer ward. Hand him the trigger in the alley. If you say God was there because you escaped, you must also say God was there when another did not. And then your religion becomes a lottery and your God becomes temper and chance. You will spend your days building apologetics for why the divine prefers one outcome over another, why the same storm is mercy to the farmer and cruelty to the widow. That is bondage. That is worshiping appearances and forcing the infinite to answer to pictures. It will break your heart. It will break your faith. It cannot be sustained, and it never was true. My kingdom is not of this world. Not of this world. Understand the grammar. Not in, not through, not as, not improved, not perfected, not moderated. There is a spiritual reality, omnipresent, whole, without opposite. Either that is the God you worship, or you are still hunting for a deity in the moving pictures of time. Either spirit is the I am that does not enter into the seesaw of good and evil, or you are trying to nail sunlight onto a shadow and call it prayer. Those that worship God must worship in spirit and in truth. Spirit is not an ingredient. Truth is not seasoning. You cannot stir grace into the soup of matter and make it divine. You cannot insert God into law and get a kinder law. You cannot lace fear with holy phrases and call it faith. God is not additive. God is being. As long as your practice begins with the scene and asks for spirit to be attached to it, heal it, bless it, fix it, you have confessed the scene to be real authority and spirit to be its servant. That is why the fix-it program fails. It starts on the wrong floor. It walks into a dream and tries to change the dream by rearranging its furniture. You can turn on another lamp in the theater. The movie is still the movie. Do not argue. Look, the bombs fall on the just and unjust. The virus does not check your creed at the door. The stock market does not spare the tithe payer because they tithe. If you demand God be found in those ebbs and flows, you have only enthroned causation and called it providence. Then when the wind shifts and your prayer is not answered, fear sets in. What did I do wrong? Why did God look away? God did not look at all, and that is freedom. God is not a watcher of human frames. God is the life in which no opposite appears. In that realization, when it is realization, not theory, the spell begins to break. Now then, what of help? What of compassion? You were not told to join the scene with holy force. You were told to abide. Abide in me, not fix for me. Abide in me, and fruit appears. Notice how that reverses the world's arithmetic. Fruit appears out of abiding, not out of meddling with branches. We still feed, we still tend, we still pay, we still show up, but we do not bring God into the picture to make the picture behave. We bring our inward consent out of the picture, and in that easing, grace takes governance. And grace governs not as outcome control, but as presence, as rightness of being, as a hush that stops the frantic mind from drafting God into its projects. If there is no God in the human scene, then who is the villain when the scene frightens us? If there is no God in the scene, then who is the hero when the scene relieves us? Neither. Drop the courtroom, drop the prosecution, Drop the defense. The minute you cast a person, an institution, a body, a system as your cause, good or evil, you have confessed to the scene as reality and set yourself under its laws. The wages of that is fear. The fruit of that is blame. The harvest of that is hatred. Accept silently within that spirit is not a contestant in your dramas, and watch what falls from your hands. Indictments fall. Private vendettas fall. The sweet, sticky demand that life apologize to you and make it right falls. You were working so hard to police a film. Let the projector be the projector and stand back to the light. This is the shock, and it must shock or it will not break the spell. For years we called miracles those moments when the picture pleased us. We wrote testimonies to the times the tide came our way. Then the tide turned, and in the panic we asked where God had gone. God had not come. God had not gone. God is. When you take God out of the teeter-totter of events and place God where God has always been, omnipresent spirit, you stop quarreling with life and begin to live in life. You still go to the doctor if you are led. You still call a lawyer if the letter demands an answer. But do not drag God into the argument to secure your side. Go where you are led without inward terror, because your being no longer lives by that law. There is a price. The personal I loses its favorite tools. It can no longer manipulate with virtue. It cannot force heaven to endorse its crusades. It cannot use prayer as leverage. That I will stomp and bargain and plead to keep God in the scene so it can feel powerful. Let it stomp. Let it spend itself. Do not feed it. For in the moment you withdraw energy from that bargaining self, even for a breath, you will sense a different government. Not better weather, not kinder judges. The government of rest. A governing presence that does not promise tomorrow because tomorrow is a vacuum, but that is now, now. The compulsion to manage begins to weaken, not because you abdicate decency, but because you are no longer hypnotized by pictures and called to worship or fear them. Do you see the mercy in this? If God is not in the scene, then you need not keep anyone out of heaven to keep your doctrine intact. You need not hate a neighbor to defend your result. You need not punish yourself for yesterday's lack of demonstration. There is no tribunal convened over your outcomes. You are invited this instant to step out of the scene as the measure of God and into spirit as the measure of you. Then action, if there is action, is clean. Then a word, if there is a word, is clean. Then a stillness, if there is a stillness, is clean. Because you are not trying to add God to matter. You are letting spirit be spirit and letting appearances pass through without drafting your soul. My kingdom is not of this world. Don't embroider it. Don't argue it. Enter it. The shock of that sentence, accepted inwardly, breaks the oldest hypnosis. It loosens your fist from another's throat. It loosens your fist from your own. It ends the superstition that providence is a referee. It returns you to the only fact there is, I am. And from I am, you will know what to do without inventing a God to justify it. Now then, let that be enough for this hour. Stand where you are and let the scene be the scene. Let God be God. And feel how blame, hatred, and managing, those three worn ropes, begin to fray in your hands. Now, if there is no God in the human scene, where then does the presence meet you? Not in yesterday's memories, not in tomorrow's hopes. Now, my kingdom is not of this world, and listen well, it is not of this time. The kingdom is a state of grace which can only be experienced now. There is no kingdom of heaven yesterday, and there is no kingdom of heaven tomorrow. Whenever the rose blooms, it's now. Whenever spirit is realized, it's now. Not I was, not I will be, is. And is never stretched across a calendar. Now then, let us take this out of poetry and make it practical. Try with all your sincerity to live a minute from now. Try it. Do your breathing there. Do your thinking there, pay your bill there, speak your love there. A minute from now is a complete vacuum. There is nothing there in which you can live. It is a picture your mind projects and then worships as urgency. Now go the other way. Try to live a minute ago. Try to correct it, repair it, enter it, or even touch it. You cannot. It is gone. The minute you attempt to live in the past or in the future, you have taken yourself out of the kingdom of heaven. Not because the kingdom withdrew from you, but because you stepped out of now and bowed to a ghost. You wonder why peace will not stay. You wonder why the prayer that quieted you at 8 o'clock is gone at 8:15. You re-entered time. You left the sanctuary of now for yesterday's accounting and tomorrow's crusade. Tomorrow's better world is a holy-sounding exile. It flatters the personal eye with visions of achievement and piles the conscience with schedules and sentences. We must, we should, we have to, or else. Or else what? Or else the projection punishes you for not serving it with worry. The urge to fix the world lives in that projection, half fear, half guilt, all tomorrow. And the more devout the fear, the more it will name itself love. Do not mistake me. We are not retired from usefulness. We are retired from time. The difference is everything. You may act clearly, kindly, firmly when the act is given now. You may sign the check now, make the call now, offer the seat now, speak the no now. But you cannot live in a blueprint stamped tomorrow and call it obedience. That is the personal I arranging an outcome and then asking God to bless the arrangement. It isn't love of neighbor, it is love of control. The only place love can appear is where you are not attempting to manufacture spirit. That place is now. Look at how time tyrannizes the sincere. The student wakes with a program. Fix this city by June. End this habit by fall. Make this household spiritual by the holidays. Then they try to pray while their mind is subcontracting God to a calendar. And the silence will not open. Why? Because you are treating grace as if it were a future commodity to be delivered upon proper behavior. Grace is government, not reward. It governs this instant, or it is not grace. The minute you mortgage your peace to a better tomorrow, you have confessed that now is empty and must be repaired. Now is not empty. Your thought about it is noisy. Try another experiment. Sit very still and let a thought finish. Do not start the next one. Just for the length of a breath, decline the mind's invitation to step into tomorrow's workshop. In that split second, something you cannot manufacture arrives. It is not a statement. It is not even an idea. It is a presence that does not promise you anything later, because later is not real to it. That presence is the only power you will ever need to be of any use in this world. And if out of that hush an act is given, it will be simple, clean, and without the taste of your fear in it. When you relinquish time-based striving, effectiveness becomes simpler because you are no longer trying to make spirit happen. Spirit is. You get out of the way, and the act, if there is one, carries its own sufficiency. Now then, mark this well. The personal I loves the banner of strategy. It lives on it. 5-year plans of holiness. 12-step ladders to illumination. Better politics by spring. Righteousness by referendum. And when the referendum fails, despair signs the next petition and calls it faithfulness. Do you see the carousel? Time turns the same horse under you and paints it another color. You can ride like a champion and never leave the ring. Drop the banner, come off the horse, stand still. In stillness, the kingdom is not against the world, and it is not for the world. It blesses by being itself. It cannot be scheduled. But there are deadlines. Yes, on the calendar, not in God. You meet the calendar from the kingdom, not the kingdom from the calendar. The courtroom date arrives, the child's recital arrives, the rent arrives, the surgery arrives. All arrive in one place, now. And if you are found in now, grace meets them. If you are found in tomorrow, fear meets them. The result may look the same on paper, signature, attendance, payment, procedure, but the soul's government has changed. Under grace, you do the next right thing without inwardly consenting to the picture's threat or promise. Under time, you perform the same act as an offering to a God-named outcome and then wait for its judgment. Nobody can live a second from now. Nobody. Yet almost everyone tries and calls the trying responsibility. It is not responsibility, it is separation. The only responsibility asked of you is to abide. Abide in me, not tomorrow, not after 3 more books, not after the next election or the next diagnosis or the next apology. Now, abide and fruit appears of itself. This is not passivity, this is sanity. It ends the double labor of carrying tomorrow on your back while pretending to be present. Drop tomorrow. Let it be the vacuum it is. Return to now until in some minute you cannot predict. The atmosphere clears and you are no longer the contractor of outcomes, but the servant of presence. I speak sharply because time has humbled me, and I will not flatter it in you. The mind that lives in tomorrow is forever exhausted, forever late, forever just about to arrive. It cannot pray, it can only plan, it cannot love, it can only bargain, it cannot hear, it can only prepare replies. When you feel that agitation, do not decorate it with noble causes. Call it what it is, exile. Then stop, half a breath, 1 heartbeat, and come home. The home is not an address. The home is now. My peace I give unto you, not as the world giveth. The world gives peace as a forecast. Spirit gives peace as presence. Choose your realm. Choose it now. Refuse the tyranny that measures holiness by tomorrows. Refuse the vacuum that promises a better world, if only you will abandon the only place God is. Stand where you are. Enter the silence that has no calendar in it. And watch how, in that entrance, your actions grow cleaner, your words fewer, your help truer. You will still be in this world. Schedules will still ink their lines across your page. But you will not be of their government. You will be of now. And from now, the kingdom that is not of this world becomes the only life you have. The only life that can bless the world without being captured by it. Now then, if the scene will not save you and tomorrow cannot house you, what is this inner momentum that still wants to rush and repair and manage? It is not love, it is not spirit, it is the personal I, the activist within, the I that must help, the I that must correct, the I that must carry, must be the one, must make a difference. It sounds noble. It wears holy clothing. It quotes scripture and collects causes. But underneath, if you listen between the lines, there is a tremor. Fear. Fear disguised as responsibility. When we fear, we virtually say, I am counting on making my demonstration without the help of God. That is what fear confesses. Not with the lips, oh, the lips can speak piety, but with the nervous system, with the breath that won't settle, with the calendar that barks. The personal I is a manager. It cannot abide. It must plan. It must prove. It must be seen as right, as needed, as indispensable to the healing of the world. And the world will applaud it, for the world loves its own. The newspapers love it. The mirrors love it. But peace does not love it because peace cannot enter where the I is governor. Do not be flattered by your causes. The I will serve any banner that lets it reign. It will mend the poor to be admired. It will correct the wicked to feel superior. It will pray long to display holiness. And when results do not arrive on time, it will accuse others first, itself second, God last. The I watches the scene for evidence that it is winning. When the picture changes, it smiles and writes testimony. When the picture resists, it redoubles effort and calls it faithfulness. All of this is the same hypnosis. It begins with a person as power and ends with exhaustion. My kingdom is not of this world. Hear it again as a verdict against the ruler named I. The personal I belongs to this world. It lives by cause and effect. It counts wins and losses. It trades in praise and blame. It measures love by usefulness and prayer by product. Spirit does not. Spirit is, and until you stop feeding the activist within, you cannot find Spirit's government. You will sit to meditate and only plan. You will stand to love and only bargain. You will go to help and only control. Responsibility must be reframed, or it will choke you. Under grace, you do what is given you to do, but you are not responsible for results, for timelines, or for the world's response. Under grace, you are not responsible even for your own demonstration. You are responsible to abide. I can of mine own self do nothing. Either those words are true or your piety is theater. If they are true, then responsibility shifts from managing outcomes to consenting to presence, and from that consent, fruit appears of itself, not as a reward, as law. The principle governs as surely as mathematics governs a correct sum. You do not strain to push 2 and 2 into 4. You consent to the principle, and 4 arrives. Under grace, action is like that, given, clean, unforced. Now then, look at spiritual ambition with clean eyes. The urge to fix the world, be it a household, a city, a body, a bank book, so often is the I pleading to be certified. It wants righteousness by results. It wants to feel safe by being praised. It wants to be essential. If the world will only need me, I will not have to face the emptiness I feel when I stop. So it never stops. It calls its hurry love. It calls its meddling leadership. It calls its anxiety prayer, and it starves on its own labor because it is trying to live a minute from now. The government of grace begins at the split second the I yields. Not a long surrender, not a performance, a tiny stop, a breath where the manager is not on the throne. In that instant, you are no longer the contractor of outcomes, but the servant of presence. Guidance is felt, not an instruction manual, a rightness, a weightlessness in the next step. Supply begins to appear, not necessarily as extra dollars or as a promised phone call, but as sufficiency for the act at hand. Compassion becomes simple, without strain, without the aftertaste of self-congratulation or resentment, because you are no longer giving from the I who needs to be thanked. You are letting the givenness give itself. Take examples. The child is ill. The I wants a program. Compare doctors, quote promises, rehearse speeches to insurance, pray specific results on a deadline. And we do our human duties as we are led, call, drive, sign. But inwardly, if the I sits in command, terror commands. Instead, try the other realm. Stop one thought sooner than you usually do. Yield the outcome, not apathy. Yield. Father, into thy hands. Then do the next simple thing that rises from the stillness. You will find that the act fits the moment like a key fits a lock, and there will be no sawtooth in it. Or your street calls you to protest. The I loves this, loves banners and megaphones and the moral height of it. Go if you are sent, but do not go to win a scene for God. Do not go to fix the world to justify your conscience. Go as presence, go without hate. Go without the private storyline that needs a villain to be alive. You may speak, you may be quiet, you may leave early. Under grace, the value of your going is not counted in headlines or likes, or even legislative change. It is counted in the absence of fear and the absence of self in your going. What if nothing changes? That question is the I bargaining for control. It has not yet learned the arithmetic of spirit. Our safety is not in change. Our safety is in is. Outcomes pass. Is. When the I can say truly, I do not own this result, you will discover a reservoir of energy you did not know you had, because fear drains more life than work ever did. You will stop monitoring the faces of those you serve to see if they approve. You will stop rehearsing your defense against those who don't, and your hands will grow quiet enough that grace can move through them. Not one in this room is hired by God to save the world. Not one. That is the I's dream. God does not hire. God is. Those that worship God must worship in spirit and in truth, which means to drop personal agency as the engine of good and become transparent to the only good there is. You are not a dam. You are a door. You open. You do not store. The river is the river. It does not need your buckets. It needs your absence. Now then, the pivot is this. Catch the I at its favorite words. I must. I have to. If I don't, who will? When you hear that drum, stop. Decline to step into the role. Half a breath. I of mine own self can do nothing. Let that be not a statement to earn a result, but a return to fact. Wait a split second for the hush. In that hush, if an act is given, do it. If no act is given, remain. No guilt, no explaining, no drama, present. This is the end of fear disguised as responsibility. This is the beginning of responsibility as grace. To be where God is, now, and to let what is God's be done without your strain upon it. And you will find, to your surprise, that more is done, more cleanly, with no residue of self, than all your years of noble activism ever produced. Now, let the I go quiet, let grace govern, let the world be helped without your bondage to it. Now then, let this be plain. Truth is not a better thought. Truth is not the sharpest statement, the finest affirmation, the cleverest arrangement of holy words. The physical ear can never hear truth any more than the physical tongue can utter truth. Words are signs, thoughts are shadows. The kingdom is spirit, and spirit is not an improved mind. It is what remains when the mind ceases its management for a split second and a hush opens. In that hush, the truth does not arrive as a sentence. It arrives as itself. A split second of silence rushes the truth. Not your silence performing a trick, not your mind holding its breath to make a miracle. A stop, clean, unforced, where no next thought is permitted to draft you into yesterday or tomorrow. In that split second, something that is not of this world announces itself without sound, presence, weight without heaviness, light without glare. It says nothing, and yet it removes the question. It explains nothing, and yet it ends the argument. And then the earth melted, not the globe, not the geography. The hypnotism of the scene dissolves, and you are relocated. Do you see the reversal? Mental treatment says, take the scene, speak to it, improve it, correct it, wage better thoughts against the picture until the picture complies. That is fine for managing pictures. It is not worship in spirit. That is the personal I still in the courtroom, pleading its case with scripture exhibits. It can produce changes. Oh yes, pictures can be rearranged, but it cannot bring you out of the scene. It cannot bring you into my kingdom is not of this world. It can only polish this world and call it prayer. The mechanism of grace is otherwise. Stop. Not to force a result. Stop because you are done letting the picture hire you. What happens in that stop? First, the noise reveals itself as noise. The emergency loses its uniform. The villain's mask slips. The saint's halo slips. The problem is recognized as appearance, a moving picture without authority over being. Your breathing changes, the stomach unclenches, the eyes soften. You haven't solved a thing. You have left the jurisdiction in which the problem claimed reality. Consciousness relocates not to a place, but to a government. From that government, if there is to be an act, it will not be an act against an enemy. It will be an act from presence, and because it is from presence, it carries its own sufficiency. How then to come to the stop? Do not fight your thoughts. Fighting them is more thought. Do not decorate them with verses. Decoration is more thought. Let the parade go by. Notice the next thought as you would a bird crossing a window. Do not invite it in. Do not chase it out. See it. Let it pass. Return to the felt nowness, the contact of the chair, the rhythm of one breath, the awareness that you are aware. Do not make it holy. Just be here. When the next thought arrives with horns and banners, do the same. And in the gap between the one and the next, a split second opens. Do not pounce. Do not evaluate. Let it be. That gap is the door. That gap is the only door. You can do this in a courtroom hallway. You can do this in a grocery line. You can do this sitting in a car with the engine off after a hard conversation. Stop one thought sooner than you usually do. Just one. Refuse to follow the thought that says, yes, but this one is special. You must think this through. That voice is the activist within trying to reclaim the throne. Bow out. One breath, half a breath. I of mine own self can do nothing. Do not make those words a lever. Let them retire the manager, and then listen, not with the ear, but with the place in you that can be still without bracing. If nothing is given, remain. You are not late. You are under grace. But I need words to pray. No, you need presence to be present. If a word comes after the hush, it will be clean. If a phrase floats up, use it like a feather, not a hammer. The difference in feel will tell you the difference in government. Mental hammers exhaust. Grace feathers lift. This is not apathy. This is not sleep. This is a wakefulness that has no object to chase. Expectancy without an agenda. The very refusal to press outward is the faith that opens revelation inward. What if the mind won't stop? Let it run out of its own steam. Sit and let a thought finish for once. When it finishes, do not feed it the next breadcrumb. You will be surprised how quickly panic tires when you do not join its march. And if the mind returns with louder drums, nobody can maintain noise indefinitely without your consent. The noise requires your attention as fuel. Withdraw it for a breath, that is all. The minute you try to sustain a long silence, the I will turn the silence into a project, and you will be back in time, measuring, judging, failing. We are not after duration. We are after entry. A split second is enough to prove the realm. Will the scene change? Wrong question. In the hush, the question itself loses authority. Results belong to the scene. Being belongs to grace. Sometimes the picture will soften in your favor. Sometimes it will not. Under grace, the inside is not hostage to the outside. Under grace, you act without inner consent to the picture's threat or promise. If there is a phone call to make, you will know it. If there is a doctor to see, you will go. If there is a no to say, you will say it without the taste of hate. And if there is nothing to do, you will not invent activity to reassure the I that it exists. Make a practice of tiny entries before speaking half a breath, before hitting send half a breath, before saying yes half a breath. Let the hush touch the act. Let the kingdom precede the contact. Over days, something subtle accumulates. Not merit, not points, not a reputation, but the ease of being governed. Then, in an hour of pressure, the muscle remembers the door, and without drama, you step through. The scene may shout, the calendar may glare, but you have already exited the theater and are standing backstage in the light. My kingdom is not of this world, nor is its door in words, nor is its door in time. Its door is the silence that is now. You exit the human scene through silence, not through improved thinking about the scene. Take this as rule and as mercy. Rule because there is no other way. Mercy because it requires nothing of you but the end of your management for a breath. Do it now. Do it again in 5 minutes. Do it tonight at 3 a.m. when the old fear tries to draft you, one split second, one door, and in that instant, you will know why all the years of arguments never brought you here, because here cannot be argued into existence. It can only be entered now. Now then, sometimes that split second of silence does more than quiet the nerves. Sometimes it flowers into a different life. There is a definite point, do mark this, when truth ceases to be a study and becomes a state. It may come at 10 o'clock in the morning while you are buttering toast. It may come at midnight when the house is still. It may come at 3 a.m. when fear wakes you for one more round, then something quits, and you do not pick it up again. Not the body quitting, not the job quitting. The manager quits, and because the manager quits, the government changes. Up to that point, we are students of truth, seekers after God. We read, we listen, we underline, we practice, we fail, we get up, we practice again. We do not complain. We do not exhibit our bruises for sympathy. Nobody. There is no commendation for suffering here. Keep quiet and go ahead and struggle. That season has dignity, but it is not the goal. It is the plow in the ground, not the harvest. The harvest is the transition, when this that we say with our lips becomes the climate we breathe without saying it. How do you know it has come? First, you relax in a way you cannot pretend. Not a vacation, not a relief because the scene improved. It may not have improved. The relaxation is the disappearance of the lifelong tension that said, if I do not carry this day, it will break. A subtle weight leaves the chest. The breath no longer asks permission from outcomes. The mind loses interest in rehearsing a future. And here is the sign I ask you to remember. You never again feel responsible for sustaining life by effort. Yes, you will still work. Yes, you will still keep appointments. Yes, you will still love and serve. But the belief that your fate and others' welfare depend on your personal management, gone. Not argued away. Gone. My kingdom is not of this world. When that sentence descends from the head to the marrow, there is a rearrangement of authority. You cease petitioning the scene for proof that God is. You cease presenting evidence to God that the scene should change. You step out of the courtroom. You live under grace. And under grace, there is no longer any law of tomorrow binding you to fear. There is no longer any law of past binding you to guilt. There is governance, not law. The life begins to be lived by is, not by was, not by will be is. Do not expect fireworks. In fact, distrust them. The transition is sometimes a storm breaking. More often it is the quietest of reversals. One evening you sit in the same chair where you have sat with your books and your notes. The same problems sit around you like uninvited relatives. And without fanfare you notice that your hands, which used to clench, are open on your lap. That your heart, which used to race, is an even drum. That your mind, which used to recite, is content to be unoccupied. And you know, without phrase, without proof, that the burden of being your own providence has been lifted. You do not believe that. You discover it. Then everything is the same and nothing is the same. You still answer the phone. You still sign the check. You still go to the hospital, to the funeral, to the graduation, to the meeting that used to turn your stomach. But you go as a transparency through which grace passes, not as an engineer attempting to dam and redirect the river. You do the next right thing, and you do not own it. The inside is no longer hostage to the outside. The world may call this detachment. It is not. It is love without bondage. It is compassion without entanglement. The scene cannot hire you with promise or threaten you with loss, because your government is elsewhere. Now then, let me say it sharply to help you distinguish seasons. Before the transition, our doing is an attempt to create safety. After the transition, our doing is an overflow of an already established safety. Before we fix to breathe. After we breathe, and then, if an act is given, we act. Before we ask, will it work? After that question does not occur. Work according to what tribunal? Which calendar? Which scoreboard? The tribunal has been dismissed. The scoreboard is in storage. But what if I have not had that moment? Then be a student without self-pity. Practice, fail, practice. Keep your failures private. Do not build a personality out of them. Do not demand a sign. Do not set a clock. The rose blooms now, not because it has a program, not because it shouts, but because the life within it is life. Your only rule is now. Your only renunciation is tomorrow. Keep returning to the split-second silence, not as a lever to force God, but as a courtesy to the truth that does not enter noise. And somewhere, 10 o'clock, midnight, 3 a.m., the habit of self-government lets go. The event is not earned, it occurs. And when it occurs, you will not take credit, you will be grateful. Understand the gift and the cost. The gift is release from the superstition of personal causation. The cost is the end of personal boasting, also the end of personal despair. You cannot say, look what I have done, and you cannot say, look how I have failed. Those sentences belong to this world's bookkeeping. Under grace, fruit appears of itself. Health may appear, supply may appear, reconciliation may appear, and sometimes the picture does not change, and the peace does not withdraw. The old argument that measured God by visible improvement is over. You know where God is, not in the picture, not against the picture, in you as is. Then you discover something beautiful. Usefulness without exhaustion. The same hands that used to shake over another's pain now steady a cup, wipe a brow, sign a petition, write a check, or keep a holy silence when words would stain. The same voice that used to argue causes now tells the truth once and does not seduce itself with echoes. You are not passive. You are no longer driven. You are not indifferent. You are no longer hypnotized. You are in this world and freed from its spell. Do not try to bottle the moment. The I loves to make a monument out of an experience. It will craft anniversaries and liturgies and the night it happened stories until the life drains from the living and pools in memory. Let the transition be what it is, a door that does not close. Do not stare at the hinge. Walk in the room. The room is called now. Live there. If on some day the old manager returns with clipboards and deadlines, do not despair. It has no jurisdiction. It will talk. Let it. You will not hire it again. My peace I give unto you. That is not a forecast. That is a present tense government. The goal is not a better world project. The goal is the end of your personal assignment, to make the world conform to your notions of good, and the beginning of being used, quietly, cleanly, by grace. From that point on, help is not a possession, and outcomes are not your property. You are a door, not a dam. The river moves. Sometimes the field is watered, sometimes the rock is washed, sometimes the valley floods. The river is wise beyond your maps. Let me end it plainly. There is a definite point of transition in time and space. Yes, in time and space, when consciousness shifts from studying about God to living under God. It can be named by a clock, but never confined to a calendar. After that point, you relax. You never again feel responsibility for your own life in the old sense. You still show up, you still pay, you still care. But the engine is not the I, and therefore the where is gone. You become a blessing without being captured by the blessing. You still remain in this world, but not of it. And because you are not of it, nothing in it can hire your fear. Now, live there, stay there, let grace govern. Now then, the question that rises is sharp and sincere. If I do not rush to fix it, am I heartless? No. Heartless is the person who brings their fear into the room and calls it love. Heartless is the one who makes the suffering of another an altar for their personal importance. Compassion is not the fever to arrange appearances. Compassion is the presence that refuses to worship appearances as reality. My kingdom is not of this world. Compassion of that kingdom can feed a body, bind a wound, pay a rent, listen through the night, yet it will not bow to the picture as God, nor accept it as a burden to redeem by personal heroics. Understand the distinction. You can act freely, quickly, effectively, and remain uninvolved inwardly, not indifferent, uninvolved. You can shelter the homeless and not agree that homelessness is a power. You can sit at the bedside and not accept disease as identity. You can advocate in a court and not make injustice your God by fearing it. You can speak truth to power and not hate the face in front of you. The act belongs to the hour. The government belongs to grace. If you surrender the government, your act becomes propaganda for fear. If you keep the government, your act becomes a transparency for love. Let us make it practical. The inner stance is simple. Meet the moment's need, then release it. Do the next given thing, then let it go. Do not carry it into time. Do not drag it into tomorrow with worry. Do not build a monument to it with retellings. Do not let it hire you into self-importance. I of mine own self can do nothing. Do you believe that? Then prove it by not taking possession of your good deed. If the act came from grace, it requires no bookkeeping. If it came from the I, it will demand receipts, recognition, and a future it can supervise. Tough love now. Nobody is helped by your panic. Nobody is healed by your fear. Your anxiety is not a spiritual gift. It is a confession that you have left the kingdom for the courtroom. When you enter a room aflame and add your own smoke, you call it empathy. It is only contagion. The greatest gift you bring is your peace, the peace that is not of this world. That peace clears the air, steadies the hands, and creates the quiet where the next right act can be seen. Lose that peace to appear concerned, and you have withheld the very thing you were sent to give. Try it the next time the phone rings with bad news. Do not answer as a manager, answer as presence. Before the second word leaves your mouth, give a split second to silence. In that instant, your allegiance changes realms. Then speak simply. Offer what is given, perhaps a ride, perhaps a prayer, perhaps a name, perhaps only a listening that does not feed hysteria. After the call, release it to is. If an action is to follow, it will be brought to you. If none is given, do not invent one to feel necessary. Or, you stand in an emergency room. Machines make their argument. People pace. You feel the pull to join the committee of worry. Decline. Breathe once under grace. Sit where you are sent. If it is to hold a hand, hold it as if there were only now and no future to encode fear. If it is to ask a question, ask it plainly, not as a prosecutor. If it is to be quiet without explaining you're quiet. Your non-anxious presence is not passivity, it is authority. Watch how, in such a field, the nurse reads more clearly, the doctor answers more plainly, the family's shoulders drop, and the next right thing appears. Or the cause calls, the march forms. Go if you are sent, but go clean. Refuse to let slogans hire your hate. Refuse to let enemies give you identity. Refuse to let success or failure that day define righteousness. You are there as a door, not a dam. The river of justice is not of this world. It does not need your rage. It needs your transparency. You may carry a sign, do not carry a grudge. You may chant once, do not chant in your heart all night. Meet the need of the hour, then release the hour to God. Some will accuse you of detachment. They confuse sobriety with coldness. They do not know that love grows cold under strain and hot under grace. The more you refuse inner involvement with appearances, the freer your hands become to serve without fatigue and your words to cut without wounding. When you are not of the world, you are not pushed and pulled by its passions. You become the still center in a moving room. You become the person everyone looks to without knowing why, because peace has weight and fear is hollow. Guard against the subtle pride of being indispensable. The I loves to be the savior. It will linger after the work is done to collect thank yous. It will rehearse its story as proof that it is real. Stop one thought sooner than that. When the meal is served, let it be over. When the check is written, let it be done. When the listening is complete, let the silence close the door behind it. This is not coldness, this is fidelity to the government of grace. By not owning the fruit, you do not have to live on it. You leave room for more to appear of itself. There is a law at work here. If you give inner consent to the problem's reality, you come under the law of that realm. Fatigue, resentment, savior complex, delayed anger. If you withhold consent and abide in is, you remain under grace, sufficiency for the act at hand, guidance for the next step, and quiet after the step is taken. Those that worship God must worship in spirit and in truth. Spirit does not carry a calendar of anxieties. Truth does not negotiate with appearances about when it will be allowed to exist. Ask yourself in the heat of service, who owns this? If your answer is I do, you have already accepted bondage. Return to the hush. Let the act be God's, the timing God's, the outcome God's. Then your body can sleep, your mind can be unoccupied. And when the next call comes, you are not already spent from yesterday's unpaid invoices. This is how usefulness becomes sustainable. Usefulness without exhaustion, generosity without residue, labor without complaint. And you will discover a quiet authority rising in you, not loud, not official, not advertised. An authority that others feel as safety. Children calm near it, strangers trust it. Rooms settle when it enters. Decisions get made without long speeches, not because you have power over people, but because you are not in contention with the scene. You are in another kingdom while your feet stand on this very floor. From there, compassion is precise and timely, never late, never early, never dramatic, always enough. So we answer the objection. It is not heartless to refuse to fix the world. It is heartless to feed the world your fear and call it help. True help is action in the moment without inward consent to the problem's reality or ownership. Meet the need, bless, release, remain available, remain free. This is compassion without involvement. This is how a life stands in the world and does not belong to it, how it becomes a blessing without being captured by the blessing. Now, practice this in the next 5 minutes, then again tonight, then tomorrow. No, not tomorrow. Now, when tomorrow arrives, as now. Let grace govern the helping, and you will find that more is mended, more deeply with no fingerprints than all your frantic goodness ever managed to arrange. Now then, there is a pattern we must receive, and the physical ear will not hear it. Peter is on a rooftop, hungry, religious, certain about clean and unclean. A sheet lowers with what his mind has always despised, and the voice that is not of this world says, "What I have cleansed, do not you call common." That is not a dietary note for a sect. That is the revelation that you must not call any person or condition unclean if you would receive the full light. Call nothing filthy, not the person, not the tribe, not the body, not even the thought that just passed. If you label it with contempt, you bar the door to the very spirit that would cleanse your seeing. This is where the modern trap waits. This world runs on enemies. Causes gather their energy by pointing at a face to blame, a group to fear, a name to curse. The campaign needs a villain the way a fire needs oxygen. And the minute you feed on that oxygen, You are back in the theater of two powers, good people versus bad people, our side versus theirs, back under the law of condemnation, back bargaining with appearances. My kingdom is not of this world. It isn't even an improved this world. It certainly is not a world sorted into righteous tribes and wicked tribes with you as judge. Those that worship God must worship in spirit and in truth, lift themselves out of the courtroom of opinion, out of the hypnosis of comparison. But if I refuse judgment, do I endorse harm? No, refusing judgment is not endorsing harm. It is refusing to let hatred become your inner climate. You may say no, you may shut a door, you may vote, testify, interrupt a blow, or call a guard. But do it without an inward verdict of filth upon a soul. Do it without feeding your rage as identity. Do it because grace has given a clean no in the moment, not because your eye has found a permanent enemy to nourish itself upon. The act may be firm, the heart must remain unoccupied by hate. Otherwise your cause becomes your idol, and your idol becomes your jailer. Nobody is healed by the heat of your condemnation. Heat sours, light reveals. Understand why condemnation blocks revelation. Judgment is the law of this world, cause and effect, tit for tat, eye for eye. Enter it, and you live by it. The more you condemn, the more you will be condemned by your own mind. The more you divide, the more divided your seeing becomes. You cannot perceive the innocence at the core of being while you are chewing on the flavor of outrage. Outrage is a stimulant. It is not food. It will keep you marching long after grace has asked you to sit down. It will keep you shouting long after the truth has already been said. It will keep you awake at 3 a.m., inventing speeches for enemies that will never hear them. That is not worship in spirit. That is the personal I wearing a halo. Now then, here is the practical test. The moment you feel righteous rage as identity, when your value swells because you have someone to despise, you have re-entered the scene. That feeling is the badge of the realm you are in. Drop the badge. Return to now. Return to silence. A split second of silence rushes the truth, and in that rush, the picture changes authority. You may still act, yes, but not as a prosecutor gathering evidence for your case. You act as presence, and presence sees what the courtroom cannot. The same life blinking behind every eye, even the frightened eye doing foolish things. Call nothing filthy. We cannot do this by opinion. The physical tongue cannot utter truth. The physical ear cannot hear it. We do this by a government change. In the hush, the knot that needed enemies loosens. The self-importance that tasted sweet in battle is seen as the hunger it is. Then you can say, no, as a surgeon cuts, to heal, not to punish. You can say, stop, as a shepherd guards, to protect, not to hate. You can remove a weapon from a hand without inventing a demon in a heart. You can enforce a boundary without inheriting bitterness. The kingdom is reached through spiritual seeing, not superior moral combat. Try it at the news hour. The faces on the screen are trained to sell you enemies. Do not buy. Sit 1 second in silence before you let a verdict congeal. Ask nothing of the scene. Withdraw consent from the chemical rush that flatters the eye with indignation. See if another seeing opens, the kind that beholds fear disguised as bravado, loneliness disguised as cruelty, ignorance disguised as certainty. This does not excuse, it exposes, and exposure is the only light that heals. Try it in the family argument. The sentence rises to your tongue. You always, you never. That is the law of this world speaking, demanding a history to chain the moment. Stop one thought sooner than that. Half a breath. Refuse the courtroom. Then speak the needed word without the old poison in it. You will feel the difference. Words shaped in the courtroom scratch the skin and harden the hearer. Words given under grace land as clean edges that do their work and do not leave splinters. Try it in the cause you serve. March if you are sent. Organize if you are sent. But do not write villains on your banners. Put principles there, put clarity there, and in your heart, no banners at all. If you cannot pray for the one on the other side of the table, you are not ready to sit there. Pray first, not with phrases, but with the stillness that refuses to call filthy what God would cleanse by sight. If you cannot bless the one you oppose, postpone the meeting until you can. You will do more good in 1 hour clean than in 1 year, intoxicated by righteousness. Some will say this is naive. They measure effectiveness by trophies taken from enemies. They do not know that the trophies rust, that the enemy of the month is replaced by a new mask, and that the soul shrivels while the scoreboard fills. My kingdom is not of this world. In that kingdom there are no trophies and no enemies, only life knowing itself. And when you live there, while still in this world, your acts become strangely potent, small, timely, precise, unadvertised, without fingerprints. Because you are not resisting evil as a power, there is no power in it to resist you. Let me speak it sharply for your protection. You cannot enter the kingdom while feeding on judgment. Condemnation is one of this world's laws. The minute you agree to it, you come under its penalties. Fatigue, cynicism, a sarcasm that passes for wisdom, a hardness that calls itself adult. Refuse it, not by pretending wrong is right. Refuse it by denying hatred the right to live in you a single second. Return to now, return to silence. If a word is given, speak it. If an act is given, do it. If nothing is given, stand still under grace. Call nothing filthy. Then watch how light finds ways you could never have managed, because light does not need an enemy to shine. Now then, we come to practice, not a slogan, a rule. Give up yesterday, give up tomorrow. Take no thought for the morrow, not as a pretty embroidery for the wall, but as a spiritual discipline with teeth. The minute you deviate into the past or the future, you are out of the kingdom. The minute you bargain with time, you are back in the courtroom. My kingdom is not of this world. It is not in yesterday's story. It is not in tomorrow's plan. It is only now. So the daily way is simple and it is severe. Return to now again and again until the compulsion to fix yields to grace that governs. Morning, before headlines, before screens, before you report to your old manager, sit. I do not care if it is 5 minutes or 50. Sit until the breath stops asking outcomes for permission. Sit until thoughts begin to be uninteresting. They will still come. Do not swat them. Let them pass like people on a platform while you do not board a train. Somewhere in that sitting there is a split second, only a split second, when the stream of thinking fails to deliver the next car. That gap is not a gap, it is entrance. A split second of silence rushes the truth. You cannot make it happen. You can only remove the noise that bars it. In that hush, without words, let the inner government present itself. My peace I give unto you, not later. Now. Let that peace be the tone setter of the day. Then rise and do what the hour asks, but do not take possession of the hour. If the mind argues, we must plan, answer it simply. There is order under grace. But what about 3 o'clock? There is no 3 o'clock. Try to live at 3 o'clock right now. It is a vacuum. Whenever the rose blooms, it is now. Your practice is not neglect. It is trust in the government of is. You may make an appointment. You do not live in it. You may put an item on a calendar. You do not climb into that day. You live here. Each time the mind darts into tomorrow, as surely as a hand returns to a hot pan, withdraw it. Not with violence, with obedience. Take no thought for the morrow. Midday, the world will come knocking. A text arrives, a headline throbs. A face at your desk carries its storm. The old reflex gathers. Fix it, Arrange it. Rush into the scene with the I as savior. That is the moment. That is the narrow gate. Stop one thought sooner than your speech, one breath sooner than your action. Inwardly, quietly, withdraw consent from appearances. The kingdom is not in this scene. Say it if you must, but better still discern it. Then ask not for a plan, not for an outcome, but for right action now, not later, now. Sometimes the right action is a phone call. Sometimes it is a sentence. Sometimes it is a sandwich. Sometimes it is to do nothing at all, to let the wind die on its own. You will not know until you have stepped out of the courtroom into the sanctuary. In that sanctuary, the next right thing appears without strain. Do it quickly, cleanly, without drum. Then let it go. If another step is required, it will present itself when it is this moment. If it does not, do not drag the hour into the next. You will feel the test. The I wants a project to own, a burden to carry, a story to tell. It will tempt you. If you cared, you would worry. Nobody is helped by your worry. Worry is time's religion. Faith is now's reality. When the mind insists on forecasting, cut its sentence at the comma. Return to the hush. Remain a door, not a dam. The river is wise. Use every interruption as a bell. Traffic jam? Now. A difficult email? Now. A meeting with tension in it? Now. Before you become a participant in the theater, even as you take your seat, withdraw your citizenship from that realm. Those that worship God must worship in spirit and in truth. Lift themselves out of the human theater, then step back in as presence, not as prosecutor. You will find that the scene shifts when you no longer agree to its jurisdiction. Not always the picture, always the authority. From that authority, you act. And because you have not given ownership to the act, there is no residue. Evening, the I loves the accounting of day. It will pile up its trophies and its failures and ask you to sleep under their weight. Decline, do not congratulate, do not condemn. Release outcomes back into the sea from which they arose. If an act of the day seems beautiful, give thanks, but do not build a monument to it. If a mistake was made, acknowledge it once. Repair what grace gives you to repair, and then withdraw the right of memory to punish you. Yesterday is not a home. It is a shadow that cannot enter now unless you hospitality it. Do not. Let the day dissolve. Sit again, even if only for a moment. Let the mind empty like a basin overturned. Breathe once inside the hush and rest under grace. Lead us not into temptation, which means do not let us sink back into time. Let sleep be worship, not escape. The rule is negative and it is merciful. Give up yesterday, give up tomorrow. Do it 100 times a day if necessary. You will fail. Do not turn failure into personality. Quietly return. You do not get medals for speed here. You are not graded on perfect attention. You are trained in fidelity. Fidelity to now. Fidelity to the inner government that only reigns in the present tense. How shall we measure success? Not by how much you repaired, not by how many crises you prevented or how many wrongs you righted. That is this world's scoreboard. It rusts. The question of an evening is simpler. Did I remain in the kingdom while moving through the world? When the call came, did I pause for the hush? Did I withhold inward consent from appearances? Were my words given or were they managed? Did I leave things clean without ownership so that I could rest? If fatigue is bitter, if resentment hums, you have re-entered the law of fixing. No sin in that. Just notice it. Return. Under grace, usefulness has a particular aftertaste. Quiet, under the eye, usefulness leaves grit in the teeth. You will learn the difference quickly. Make small liturgies for yourself. Before your hand touches the doorknob of work, stop. Now. Before you answer the second ring, stop. Now. Before you write the last email of the day, stop. Now. These are not techniques for control. They are courtesies to truth. The physical ear cannot hear this. The physical tongue cannot utter it. It must be done. It must be lived. It must be returned to in the exact second you notice you have wandered. That is all. That is the whole religion. Do not expect applause. Do not wait for the scene to congratulate you with smooth hours and easy meetings. The kingdom is not of this world. It does not pay in trophies. It pays in governance. It pays in peace that holds steady while pictures flicker. It pays in a body that learns not to exhaust itself, collecting what grace will give freely when you are not managing. It pays in a life that becomes simple, still varied, still eventful, but simple because ownership has ended. So make this your practice. Morning, enter the hush before the day can hire you. Midday, pause at the threshold of every scene and return to the inner government. Act only as given. Now, evening, release everything back into is. Refuse the praise and refuse the blame. Sleep under grace, and all through the day, obey the negative rule. Give up yesterday. Give up tomorrow. There is no other time in which God is. Return to now, again and again, until even the thought to fix is seen as a relic. Then watch how, without your compulsion, right action appears exactly when it is needed and disappears when it is done. This is the end of fixing. This is the beginning of being lived. Stay there. Let grace govern. Now then, we have walked the circle. You have seen why the itch to fix is not compassion but worship of pictures. You have seen why the courtroom of judgment bars the door to light. You have learned the rule of now, the renunciation of tomorrow, the split second that dissolves the spell. And so we come to the simple end that is not an end. The world will be the world. Pictures will continue to flicker, and you will remain where you have always secretly belonged, within. In the world, yes, not of it. You will not try to hear this with the physical ear. You will live it from an inner government that the ear cannot touch. Do not mistake this for withdrawal. You do not withdraw from people. You withdraw from the premise that governs them when they forget who they are. You do not leave your work. You leave the superstition that you must secure outcomes by fear. You do not abandon causes. You abandon the heat that needs enemies to feel worthwhile. You do not forsake family. You forsake the ownership that turns love into anxiety. You move among bodies and buildings, contracts and calendars, births and funerals, but you are not hired by any of them. You cook the meals and fold the shirts and pay the taxes. You simply no longer pay tribute to time, to judgment, to the personal I. The act belongs to the hour. The government belongs to grace. What follows is not romance. It is quiet fact. Peace arrives. Peace not as the world gives, not because scenes improve to suit your comfort, but because comfort no longer has jurisdiction. Supply arrives without anxiety, because you have left the marketplace of getting and live in the orchard of being. Guidance appears without strain, because the next right thing is shown in the hour it is the hour. Compassion flows without entanglement, because you meet need without giving the need the right to define reality. You will find that what you used to chase by management begins to gather of itself when you have ceased to worship outcomes. Doors open that you never knocked upon. Hands appear when you stopped waving. A sentence is given that does the work your arguments never did. Not magic, government. And there is a sign that you have passed the threshold. You relax. You are no longer responsible for your life. That is not laziness. That is a change of government. The shoulders let go of a weight you did not know you were carrying. The breath discovers it does not have to hold up the world between inhalations. You do what is given, when it is given, as it is given, and then you release the hour back into is. Up to that point, we were students of truth, very fine, very diligent, sometimes very frightened students. At some moment, 3 o'clock in the morning, or 10 o'clock in a kitchen, or between heartbeats at a stoplight, there is a split second of silence, and in that gap, the truth rushes. Not a statement, not a promise, the spirit itself. And then the earth melts. Not the globe, not the headlines, but the hard earth in you that believed it was in charge. From then on, you live under grace. Now then, stop trying to make this world into the kingdom. It will never be, not even improved, not even perfected. My kingdom is not of this world. Each time you try to drag the kingdom into time, you create a vacuum called tomorrow, and you fall into it. Each time you bargain with fear for better pictures, you re-enroll in the law of fear and call it prudence. Each time you try to redeem the scene by wrestling it into shape, you give it the only power it ever seemed to have, your consent. Withdraw consent. Enter the kingdom within. Live there. Walk here. You will test this at once. A storm rises at work. You feel the tide pull your stomach forward. The mouth prepares a defense. The mind starts editing the past to win the future. Stop one thought sooner. Close your eyes if you can. If you cannot, close them inside. A split second. The allegiance changes. You are in another government while still in the same room. Speak what is given or be quiet as given. Keep your peace as your first gift. When the hour passes, let it vanish. Do not take it home. Do not sleep with its ghosts. Rest. If repair is to be done, it will be given in the morning as morning's now, not as night's worry. A grief enters the house. The world will try to hire you into comparison, into helplessness, into fear of future. Decline the employment. Sit under grace. Hold a hand. Cook a soup. Make a call. Cancel a meeting. Do each as given, not as an offering to a new god called tragedy. Grief has its honest tears. Let them fall without creating an identity to live in. You will find that tenderness deepens, not because you have agreed to sorrow as a law, but because you have refused to turn away from life's face, while keeping faith with the light behind the face. A cause sends an email. March if you are sent. Write if you are sent. Donate if you are sent. Sit still if you are sent. But do not let the call define you. Do not join the choir of enemies. Be a door. When you walk home alone in your heart, unhired by victory, unfired by defeat. Sleep. Wake. Now again. Let me be severe enough to serve you. Nobody comes into this peace by debate, by brilliance, or by arranging. The physical ear cannot hear it. The physical tongue cannot utter it. It is known only in the minute obedience of returning to now and allowing the personal I to yield. It is not far. It is not hard. It is immediate, and it is narrow. The minute you deviate into the past or the future, you lose it. The minute you claim the act as yours, you lose it. The minute you call a soul filthy, you lose it. But in the very next split second, without self-accusation, you can return, and the government is there as if you had never left. So we resolve, not by oath, but by posture. We will be in the world, honest, employed, relational, useful, and not of it, unruled by fear, unhurried by time, unheeded by judgment, unburdened by personal responsibility for outcomes. We will cease trying to redeem the world by wrestling with it. We will bless it by living from the kingdom that is not of it. Now, not tomorrow's program, not a better philosophy, a living transition in this breath, this beat, this exact unmoving now. My kingdom is not of this world. Therefore, stop making this world into a kingdom. Enter the kingdom within. From there, walk through this world as a quiet benediction. No fingerprints, no trophies, no enemies. Only presence present here, not of this world, in it, unowned. A blessing, uncaptured now.